Oh my God, everyone's been talking about the lights here. It is true. It's
Right?
like, you know, America's Got Talent. All right. Um,
Or
my,
us.
what?
Or us for the time
Yeah,
being.
exactly. My name is Tom Hartman. I lead brand solutions for VideoAmp. VideoAmp is a leading cross-channel measurement provider. So we measure everything from your linear to your social to your digital and streaming. And I have no idea what these guys do for a living because I just got this assignment an hour ago. Um, why don't you introduce yourselves and talk about Resident?
Sure. So I am Jared Brody. I am head of acquisition at Resident. Resident is a house of brands in the DTC mattress space. So our biggest brand is Nectar Sleep. DreamCloud Sleep is another brand. Awar Sleep is an organic mattress. Sienna Sleep is one that we just launched, which is a budget mattress. And Level Sleep is for people that have back pain. We have been around for 5 or so years. Personally, I handle all of our spend, so a couple $100 million a year in spend to drive new acquisition and new customers. And Junior is a member of my team.
Hi, everybody. My name is Junior Reyes. I've been with Wrestling for about 4 years now. Initially started handling all programmatic media for the company. Now I've shifted to focus more on traditional channels like linear TV and connected TV, which is one of our emerging channels. Yeah, Jared pretty much said everything about the company. It's mattresses. It's not that exciting. It's not that sexy, but we make it like that. So
All right, I believe in audience participation. Raise your hand if you sleep on a mattress. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you very much. And if you don't know Resident, it might interest you to know that they spend, how do I do this politely, between 500 and $1 billion in media. So they have a certain amount of experience in the marketplace that we're all playing in. So let's kick this off with um, you have a number of brands and there are lots of competitors. How do you cut through the clutter with what you're trying to do?
So for us, cutting through the clutter, it's really almost inertia, to be honest with you. I mean, like you said, everyone raise your hands. Everyone's a customer. Everyone sleeps on a mattress. So for us, it's really focusing on the intent-based channels the most. And if you have the right product, the right price at the right time with the right message, inertia happens. And that is how we find ourselves cutting through the clutter because we have a wonderful products. Every single one of our products is fantastic. It's incredible value for the price, and it's sort of, I know it's not maybe the answer you're looking for, but it sort of takes care of itself.
I'm sure that it takes a lot of hard work
It does. It
and,
does.
expertise to do your job. We'll work on your resume afterwards. All right. How do you approach emerging media channels like CTV as you're incorporating and planning for the year ahead?
Okay. So we are a very data-centric company. We live and breathe data and measurement and metrics every single day. So for us, we break our media channels into two buckets. One is core, and emerging is what would fall into test, something that we're not currently doing. To be a core media channel, it needs to be something that we know how to measure, that we are confident it works, and that it's always on. That's roughly, I want to have 80 to 85%, maybe 90% of my spend in those channels at all times. The other money that we can sort of play around with is what we call test money. That's what we work with in these emerging channels or these test channels. Over the course of a test, there's only two outcomes. It either becomes a core channel or it's done. And the whole idea, and we're not, I mean, at the scale we're at, there are no more silver bullets. So if we can find one new channel a quarter would be a huge win for us. So ultimately, we go through these cycles of testing emerging channels and either moving them into core at, likely not at the spend levels that our core channels are at, but they're still part of the mix, or the channels just that core channel, that channel, that emerging channel just does not become part of core.
One of the topics that came up earlier when Michael was talking about Mondelez was, they are not in-housing their media. You guys do have in-housed your media. What are some of the advantages? And Josh did it famously at Bear to great effect, really leading a lot of the trends. How has that helped you? What are some of the advantages and what are some of the challenges?
I think the advantage primarily is the agility and the flexibility to sort of move our own pace, right? There's nothing wrong with an agency and partnering with an agency. We do partner with some agencies for some expertise that we might not have in-house, right? But for us, right, with, at the scale that we are, we've gotten there with that flexibility, right? And also with the ability to be able to sort of have talent and specialists in every single one of these channels that we can talk to rapidly as we're approaching to a holiday, as we're approaching the end of the year, as we want to test something new, right? We don't want to go through a lengthy process of approvals, bidding wars, or around budgets and that sort of thing. But again, not to say that we don't work with an agency. I think it's just having the understanding that there's a right time to work with an agency, and there's also a time where we don't need to work with an agency, right? But given our mix, it's not as often. That's what
And there's also, I mean, there's also something very core to everyone working towards the same goal and the same understanding. Now, the goal is for us is to sell mattresses and do it at our efficiency goals that we set, be it our target ROAS or target CPA. Now, a channel manager, be it at an agency or be it junior or someone else on my team, the end product of it could be 10 to 15 different steps will manifest itself in hitting the goals that we want. Now, that could be product sourcing materials cheaper. It could be operations delivering products faster. It could be a change in billing providers that increases your conversion rate. Everyone inside our organization is privy to all that information to know that the outcome is what the channel manager is going to say. I'm doing a great job. Look at my conversion rate. So it's just a different mindset when everyone is working. Not everyone's going to work towards the same goal. Even an agency partner would, but the understanding of how you're getting there, it could be very different.
And did you, when you guys arrived, was it already an in-house? Did you, how did that transformation happen? It's not on the list here, I know.
I can handle that one. Everything was pretty much in-house. I mean, Junior handles our linear TV, and you want to talk to about agencies for linear?
Yeah. So I've been at the company for quite some time. When I first joined the company, right, I came from an agency background, different vendor background, et cetera. So to me, being on the brand side for the first time, that was kind of like a shock. It's like we handle everything in-house. Like, how many hands do we need to handle all of this, right? So that was kind of like a shock. But then as soon as you start diving in and understanding how everything interconnects, it's insanely valuable information to have. On the linear side, for example, right, we don't have the expertise of someone that is familiar with a linear environment, the market,
or the buying power,
or the buying power, right? Yes, as a company, we do are close to $1 billion in media a year, but we don't have that expertise, right? So this is where partnering and betting the right agency to help us get there is where it's important. So in that case, we do work with several. We have tested several linear TV agencies, and unfortunately, we haven't really got to a point where we have scaled linear like we want to, but it's still an emerging channel for us, and we will continue to work with different agencies to get to that point where it does become a core channel.
And so one of the last points on that is being in e-commerce, and anyone else in the audience is in e-commerce. I mean, that is always on, especially during the holidays. So holidays for us, big mattress holidays, President's Day, obviously Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Memorial Day. Everyone from the company is online, making sure that everything is functioning, down from the CEO to my team to all of our customer service reps. So that is crucial to us being able to do what we do, because we're reacting in real time. We react to hour-over-hour changes in media. And unless you have everyone in-house working towards that and working with that information, it just won't happen the same.
And to clarify, we do have work-life balance, by the way, just in case.
So marketers are constantly being asked to respond to market changes and to deliver on performance metrics. But you also have 5 subsidiary brands, and you're trying to build the brands. How do you balance performance against brand lift efforts?
The simple answer is we will earmark a % of spend for brand activities that we know we can't measure them perfectly. We try to. They're more ambiguous as far as the results, but that's really the simple answer. And some of our more mature brands, like Nectar, which is our biggest brand, we usually start from the bottom up, which is driving from intent to efficiency. The size that Nectar is at, now we know we need to start building brand. So Nectar may get more attention for the brand side, where some of the newer brands like Sienna that we just started, we're really focusing on efficiency and what's the right marketing message, what's the right flow for the user, what's the right, the conversion rate optimization for the site. Once we fine tune all of that and hopefully get to a level that Nectar's at, then that too would take its natural course and say, hey, in order to build that brand, we need to start creating some brand awareness for Sienna as well.
Cool.
To add to that, I also think that it's really understanding sort of your marketing, your product. For example, a mattress, right, is something that gets maybe changed 8 to 10 years, or maybe even in some cases 5 years, right? So for us to focus so much on telling a story about this mattress brand, and then kind of weigh a 5 year, 6 year cycle, et cetera, right? It becomes challenging to spend that money and then justify. So um, we've sort of looked at it from like, we know that the people that are in market to buy the mattress know about our brand, right? And we know that for a fact because of the way that we have our marketing channels set up. But that's our brand awareness. That's what we want to play in terms of brand awareness, is in the in-market space, right? There are triggers that can lead someone to become an in-market for mattress, right? That are further up in the funnel, but I think that those users come through seasonality, and then the rest come through kind of those waves of 5, 8, 10 years, etc. So for us to be efficient is really just focus on those kind of bottom-up metrics, ensure that we are in as many channels as possible because we want to be there whenever that in market for custom for mattress is available, right? That's our brand awareness.
Cool, thank you. So when I dragged myself out of the 6-inch, divot in my mattress this morning and opened up the Wall Street Journal's CMO newsletter, true story both, there was a talk about how Sleep Number has just dropped their estimates for the year. This is also not in here, but kismet that I got to be your moderator, because people are putting off that type of purchase. But it would seem with your range of brands and price sensitivity that you have, you're really at a competitive advantage. How are you responding to the market change?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, people are putting off most recently, literally within the past month or two, people are putting off purchases for home goods and mattresses for things like food and gas. But we see these changes week over week, based on the demand trends that we monitor and that we see, and even on efficiencies and conversion rates. Because just someone could still be interested and researching, where they're going to buy down the road, where they might not be ready to buy now because of the times we live in, some factors. It could be anything. So you may have the interest level there, but you will not have the conversion rate. So it's going to look like that spend is not great to begin with, but maybe further down the road, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, that spend may mature. But we monitor this stuff daily, including a lot of the supply chain issues. We are very upfront with how long it will take for you to get your product. So we will change our shipping days on our site depending on what's on the water, what's in the warehouses. Are there any employee shortages, and that impacts conversion rates also. But we are very data centric. We're monitoring this stuff literally every day, and sometimes certain things every hour.
Interesting. It's another way that your brand metrics are feeding into your performance metrics, or vice versa. There's a point where they bleed together. Junior.
Yeah, no, and to add to that, it's also during these times, I feel like adding a little bit of certainty and removing some of the uncertainty from the consumer is important, right? So like one of the things that we're very proud of about our brands, right, outside of the different price points, right, we have a mattress that we just launched this year, which is Sienna Sleep, and that comes in at like $299 for starting price, right? We have other mattresses that kind of jump right in the $2,000 range, right? But we understand that these are purchases, and these are purchases that one can really like try physically in a store. And even if you do try it in a store, right, it's not something that in 5, 10 minutes or even 20 minutes that you're in a store, you're gonna feel like this is for you. So for us, we've made it our mission to ensure that the customer has no worry when it comes to our product. So we really rely on our 365-night trial, right? You have a whole year, try the mattress, feel it out through every season. Memory foam changes, if it's cold, if it's hot, etc. Hybrid mattress, coils freeze up, etc. All these different things.
Gift cards in the back.
There you go. So leveraging our value props in the messaging, in the ads, in the creatives, and having that synergy across all the channels that we're in, even the test channels, does help remove some of this uncertainty through these times.
But I mean, it is strategic that we have these range of mattresses, because Sleep Number is a high-end customer. So there are some of our mattresses that compete in that price range, and some compete, like Junior saying, was a lot lower. So that is a strategic decision to try and hit every band of customers.
How do you, given that you have so much data, how do you normally start off a partnership with a new media partner or a new channel? Like, what are the things that you're putting forward as a requirement to play? How do you build those partnerships?
So we going on a year and a half at this point right now. We've built our own multi-touch attribution model in-house, so it's very data-centric. So we rarely will log into platform UIs to look at anything that's in there, other than things that are impossible to import, like watch time and things like that. But as far as impressions, clicks, transactions, anything like that, we just require our RFP is basically, this is the data that we need to effectively measure your media. Can you give it to us? If they can, we'll test almost anything. If they can't, it's not an emotional decision. It's just, I'm sorry, we just can't work together.
And is that something that normalizes across different types of channels, or search, linear, streaming?
So I mean, each we really break it down into two types of channels, which is click-based and impression-based. Click-based is rather easy to measure because they're winding up on your site. Impression-based is when you need things like impression logs to understand where that impression fit into the path to conversion, and that's the data that we want to ingest into our data warehouse so we can string together and stitch together that whole consumer journey. So if we are missing a piece of that, and if that impression is what led to that brand search, then how do you know that that actually works? So if we can't get that data, we just won't work with that media partner.
To add, if I think about like a channel like linear TV, these are some of the cases where log files don't matter. So in those cases, it's really working on with the agency that we're partnering with and their data team and our data team, and figuring out how comfortable are we with the models that they're putting together, right? Linear is a channel that has been notoriously known for its baseline plus lift, and it's something that is very probabilistic, right? So for us, is really taking that and then adapting it to our business, our models, our brands, etc. But there are exceptions, but primarily if the data that we need in order to measure the bare minimum of the channel is not available, it's hard for us to feel comfortable testing.
And Junior, you want to talk a little bit more about linear, because that's now your fault, and that's typically been harder to measure and harder to understand how it would fit into that overall sort of digital first model you've got.
Yeah, so
I'll be back.
to
You didn't know you were buying linear?
no, I did
You were
not.
supposed to tell him.
No, seriously though, but it is something that is going to take us a long time to crack, for that point that you made, right? We're a very digital first channel. We have sort of grown up in this very tangible ecosystem where e-commerce, D2C companies rely so much on the click, right? That when you're working for a company that's so heavily focused on that, it becomes extremely challenging to convince, right? So it's a process that it's about educating. It's about understanding the different measurement approach, right? We don't go into linear and just say, hey, here's a media plan for the week, and then here's another one, and let's just optimize the networks, and that's it, and go and look at our baseline plus lift. Now it's like, okay, that looks too good to be true, right? How do we validate that? Let's go and perform a geo test. Let's go and perform a pulsing test. Let's go and leverage some ACR data from some of our CTV partners and see if we can actually tie back some of the points to some digital points and see if there's anything, right? Let's cross-reference with our how do you hear about our survey, right? How do we make this channel that is not digital as close to digital as possible? And it's education. It's really educating.
And and what's with a considered purchase like a mattress, which is not so impulsive, what really plays into can you get linear to work is the drag factor on that media.
Yeah.
And that is always a bone of contention between probably whoever is buying linear TV and whoever the agency is that's talking about the results. So we actually, we are very, very spoiled with the data team that we work with. Our boss, the CMO, also heads a data practice. They're in Israel. We have some incredible people over there. And we literally built the same sort of liftover baseline model and tracked the drag factor internally to understand when did the spots run, when did you see the little lift, how long does the drag factor work, and we came up with different results. I don't know. I mean, linear is very, very difficult to measure, especially for a company like us. So that's why I was saying if you earmark, let's say, 10% of your spend and sort of look away, ultimately, you hopefully see the effect, a halo effect on your other channels, where if someone does see your Facebook ad or does see a display banner somewhere, or hears your ad on a podcast, oh yeah, I know those guys. I saw them on TV. They're legit. So ultimately, it has a halo effect on everything. But to measure the actual results of linear is pretty difficult, especially for a company with our DNA.
So, getting away from media just for a second, why have mattresses become this intensely competitive marketplace over the last 5 years?
Well, I think it's because it was addressing probably the less than ideal experience of going mattress shopping in a retail store, which has changed a lot. I mean, retailers have really upped their game. But going 5, 10 years ago, if you wanted to get a mattress, you usually had to go to a mattress store. You're talking to a sales representative. That could be good, it could be bad. Someone came in and found, came up with a new model and a new approach to doing that, direct to consumer, and it really took off because you can run a profitable business, which we do. Not everyone does it, but we do it and we do it well. So I think it is really just addressing. Originally, it was addressing a pain point, and then if you could actually make that into a legitimate business, then you keep growing and growing and growing.
And how is your business different than, you guys have both been there for a while? How is it different from a media point of view than it was 3 years ago?
I think it's
Way off road now. I'm hitting you with these.
I think it's very drastically different. We're still are, but not to the same extent, relying on the walled gardens, right? The Facebook, the Google of the world. But the way that we've changed that relationship has, again, been more data focused versus before. It was more on, these are the platforms of truth because of the clicks that they drive, and nothing else sways that decision, right? So I think we've gotten smarter about the understanding of this platform, the understanding of the media mix, et cetera. Understanding the importance of diversifying your media mix, right? Because like when Apple decided to take one of the legs up from Facebook, right, a lot of companies were struggling and figuring out how to best spend that next dollar, right? And not to say that we didn't experience any sort of like friction, right? But we already had plenty of channels for our core brands, right? That we could confidently say this channel has an impact on that other channel. Let's go and spend that money there. We know Facebook has some sort of effect, but we're okay with that 10% discrepancy because of Apple's issue, right? So the journey has taken us to really understanding the importance of a good diversified marketing mix.
So our mix is definitely more diversified, but we're also better at even measuring the same media. Yeah. So by building our internal multi-touch attribution model, if I was to look at any given day and logged into every platform, they would tell me they drove combined 100 sales, and I know internally I'll have 25. So we're just a lot better at understanding where each piece of the media fits into the path to purchase. A lot of the media is still the same. Now, granted, we have certainly built out our media mix, and it's a lot more robust, but we also built a marketing mix model in-house, which we will run monthly, and we will get those results on first or second of the month for the prior month. But at that point in time, it's stale. That's stale data. So we will use that as a benchmark for that point in time, and then we look at trends weekly to see where are the dollars now being spent best? What trends are in effect that weren't in last month? And we see that show up in our multi-touch attribution. That's where we'll shift that next dollar or those next dollars to spend those most efficiently from that baseline that our marketing mix model set.
It does seem like you guys sell mattress for a living, but probably don't sleep very much. I'm just saying. In a minute or so, we're going to head to questions, so please get those hands up, except for whoever it was who said they sleep on a futon back there in the back. When you are looking for direct response, do you guys have retail stores?
Well, we have one or two of our own. I mean, we are in retail stores.
Right.
I think close to 3,500 or 4,000 retail stores at this point.
And how do you measure those impressions?
Magic. That's incredibly hard to do. You have to create a feedback loop with the retailer to get some of the information back, and that is a process that not everyone is open to, and it's even difficult when that happens. But if you do something like a geo test where you work with a retailer hand in hand and say, if they have stores in 2 geos or 3 geos or 5 geos, and you say, hey, I'm going to spend money in this geo more than I normally would. What is your lift in those areas for your same store sales? If you hold everything else the same and those sales increase 10, 20%, and the other markets where we didn't run the media is the same, it's a logical assumption to say that spend contributed to those sales, and that's it's a common tactic. But unless you're getting the issue is with not being the retailer itself is it's not our data, and it's very hard to get that back.
Interesting. All right. Questions? Yes.
Hey guys, Chris Magel from Samba TV. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I have
So we will look at the broad trends for our marketing mix model, and that will be run usually once a month, early in the month for the preceding month. And then we'll look at what the changes are for each channel, for paid search, for paid social, for display, whatever the case may be. That is our line in the sand. That's where we're starting. And then on a weekly basis, sometimes after a couple days, we'll take a look to see what are we seeing from our multi-touch attribution from the bottoms up, and say, how is this channel working versus this channel from actual results? So that's being measured by revenue and transactions on a granular level, where the marketing mix model is just taking a look at the larger trends.
Do they usually align?
No, I mean they usually do. I mean we will put some constraints. We'll put some limits and some minor limits and maximum limits on. We know our business well, so if there's a point in time where our model would say, SEM should be 5% of your spend, we know that's not the case. We know it should be at a certain point or above, so we'll set a limit and say, this is a constraint for the model, and it's got to be at X%. And it's usually, things don't change around that much unless you create an anomaly, unless you start running $5 million on TV in a given month where you were running none. That's going to create some sort of anomaly in your business. If it creates zero anomaly, then it's a terrible spend. It didn't do anything for you. But if all of a sudden it increased your business by X%, then likely, if that's the only anomaly that was created for the marketing mix model, that's what led to the change.
I have to ask a follow-up question. Sorry, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
How long ago did you start using linear TV? And did you see it add a whole lot? Like to the point where you now see it as a fundamental, foundational element of the plan?
We don't see it as a fundamental because we have a hard time measuring it. We know it can drive lift, and we've proven it can drive lift, but it's just too expensive to drive that lift for what we've done.
All right, Chris.
All right, sorry. Thank you.
For the rest of the audience, any other questions?
If no one else, you can come back.
Other questions? Oh, come on. There we go.
Resident doesn't scream mattresses to me necessarily. I don't know your backstory, of course, but or yet.
Mhm.
I should say, but it seems like with your history and the data you're accumulating and the experience that you're getting, that the term resident was chosen purposefully so you could expand into other areas.
Yeah, I think that's a logical assumption. I mean, the brand, it's the resident, the name resident, really is just a corporate name. But yeah, I mean, our goal is to get into other areas of the house as well. It's true.
Sneaky. Another hand? Another.
Someone over there. We have two over there. All right.
Oh, just
Not Rupert.
You are absolutely fascinating to listen to.
Thank you.
Do you publish any of the stuff you're talking about that someone can read what you're talking about, or is it too proprietary?
There's certain things that are out there. The marketing mix model we build in conjunction with Facebook on their open source platform, so there's something out there about that. There's articles here and there. I don't really know if there's white papers or anything like that. I'm not sure, to be honest. If we have a very heavy presence. Like I mentioned, we have an office in Israel, so we work very closely with the Google office in Israel, Facebook office in Israel. So there may be stuff that's more in that part of the world, but yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, sorry.
Question here?
Oh, I was just curious, in terms of COVID, how that impacted your business, before and after.
Our business exploded because of COVID. So the way we function, I think we paused marketing for about 12 hours. And then we saw what was going on. And I mean, the past couple of years for us have been blockbuster. And that was literally almost from the day after there was shelter in place to today. And we spent aggressively, which captured a lot of market share, and we've maintained that market share. Which is, if you read a lot of the stories on spending through a crisis and whatnot, you usually hold on to that market share, and we have.
Up, hand in the back, up there.
Do you use your data to figure out, white space for product development? Is that how Sienna came about?
Yes. So understanding your auctions across your marketing channels and kind of where you're losing, and then taking the customers that didn't convert and incentivizing them to answer a short survey will tell you a lot. So we understood that we were at a little bit of a disadvantage with a lower price point, in turn, lower price point areas. So Sienna came about that. Granted, Nectar's already like $300, $500 cheaper than our next best competitor, but we needed a different lower entry product while still maintaining the quality, the forever, the warranty, the trial, etc. So that came about from data.
Great name. Named my daughter.
Oh,
And that's
That's
being
a-
looked at. Yes. Okay. That's it. We're done. Yes. Okay. Great. We're done. We're
We're
done.
done.
Good job.
Thank you all. You've been a great audience.
Thank you.
thank you.